So we've looked at what is WordPress, we've looked at hosted and domain names, we've looked at theme and theme builders that we're going to use, which is Hello Elementor Theme and Elementor Theme Builder. Then we've looked at some of the plugins, what is a plugin and what advantages they have to add functionality to your website. This is going to be the longest part of the whole of this guide really, and it's going to be the step-by-step to building a website for your small business. And you're going to look over my shoulder, so to say, as I build a website for a photography studio, which is the example that we've been using. But it doesn't matter what industry that you're in, the process is the same. You know, building a website process will continue whether you're a plumber, electrician, photographer, whatever your industry, will be able to use this step-by-step guide on how to build a small business website from start to finish. First thing that we want to do is actually look at some of the competition, get a bit of inspiration for design and everything like that. And I jumped onto my friend's website, James, at Jigsaw Photography. He's got a photography studio, so it was the same niche. And I said to him, look, can I take a few of your images, some of your text and stuff like that for this process? And what we're going to do then is donate that website to him as a secondary business client generator, really, using all correct information, but making sure that when we do for SEO purposes at a later date, that we don't conflict with his main current website. But that bit is sort of by the by. For our instance, more importantly, it gives us a bit of content to use instead of going out and using stock images or something like that. But part of that research is we look at Google, we look at some of the competitors, we look at see if there's a common theme to layouts and designs when it comes to your industry. So we notice that in certain industries, there's a certain layout, certain way that menus are structured and stuff like that. And clients and customers are used to going on a website and go, yes, that is what I want. This is where I find it. And we found that, say, for example, in one of my clients who's a trade supplier, we noticed that 3 or 4 of the big players in his industry, Screwfix, B&Q, people like that, had this same sort of layout and design continuously going through. And we converted his website to stay continued within his industry. His conversion rate increased by over 3 times just from changing the design alone. Obviously, we did some SEO work and stuff as well. So have a look on Google, have a look at some of your competitors, and then whilst you're there, take a look and go, well, I like that section, I like that section, I like that section. And that's what I've done here. I've had a look at Google, and the other platform that I use is awards, and it's just awards with a www.com. And you know, the site of the day, there's award-winning elements, there's award-winning complete websites, homepages, whatever, and you just search for what inspiration and your industry that you want. So in my case, it was like studio photography studio. And you see that there's 22 websites related to that. There's 2 courses available, and there's a couple of collections and articles and all sorts for you to get on with that industry. But we just want to focus on the website. So we loaded all results, we had a look what was available, and I took a couple of these as well as a couple from when we did the Google searches, and I just dropped them into a notepad. So we've got the Love Carmen Rose, Colby Inc. and Be Captured. And let's start with Colby. And with Colby, what I really liked was this big hero at the top, full picture, the logo subtly in the middle. And then we scroll down and we've got, you know, some logos of some of the clients that they've worked with. Obviously, this doesn't particularly work in, for example, that we're using, but if you're a plumber or an architect, or you know, you're working with certain companies that were really good fit for your portfolio, you could add something like that. And I really like these service elements here. They work really, really nicely. Below that, it doesn't massively work out for me in this text area. It's not as neat and as sort of at the top or colourful or anything. But then I quite like that we've got this testimonial area. And then what I really like about this website is this footer at the bottom. So we've got a couple of elements there where, you know, the hero banner at the top works with a logo in the center. Quite like that idea. I like these elements here through the center as well for the services that are provided. And I like the footer. And those 3 bits that we can take away from that website and use on our design slightly differently. Then let's have a look at the Carmen Rose. We've got a slideshow of different images and the work that's been done. Doesn't particularly work for me. Don't like the menu on the right hand side, although it does look quite fancy. You have to click off. What I do like about this website are these service elements. So we can take those and bring those across to our website. So I liked these that I felt we could work with as well. And finally, the Be Captured website. This is more of a local studio that I found through Google as well. So I like the header at the top with the logo, small at the top, and then the menu, and then this larger call to action website, a button. And then most importantly, you can have the most beautiful looking website in the world, but if it doesn't convert visitors into clients, what's the point of it? You know, ultimately, we want to get those big call to actions so they know how to contact you really quickly, really easily. Most people know what photography studios do. They know what they want. They want a family portrait session or something like that. They just want to know, how do I get that booked? So a big call to action button will solve that for you. I also liked this text area, although the font could be larger and a better font, but that's you know, something that we can deal with. And then it's got a nice little portfolio gallery in there. From there, the design sort of drops off a little bit and doesn't look as neat. And obviously the footer doesn't work half as well as Colby's, but we have got elements again from this website. So what we're going to do is take parts from all 3 of those websites, mash them together and create our design. So let's go back to our actual WordPress install for our website. Let's go on visit website, and currently you see we've got this blank, just says photography studio in Birmingham, and it's got no information in it. The first thing that I want to do is create a menu, because we want to see what that menu is going to look like when we start adding headers and footers, which is what we're going to cover in this first section. So let's create a menu, and you do that by, when you're in the dashboard, go to appearance and then menus, and just call it my menu. Click on create menu. And that now allows us to add any pages that we've created. Initially, we're just going to add the home page. It's the only one that we've actually created. Eventually, we'll be able to add all of the other pages. Now, to make us see how it's going to look long term, we're just going to add some custom links. And we're just going to use a hashtag as the URL, and then the link text, I'm going to put family portrait. I'm going to put commercial and the hashtag again, weddings. Let's put portfolio. Let's put an about us page, and then let's put in the blog. Now you'll notice that I haven't put a contact page in as yet, and that's if we go to Be Captured, we've got this button. We're going to manually input that into the header a bit later on, basically, when we create the main header. Ultimately, we don't need to add it to the menu for now. Now there's a couple of things that I think weddings could be above commercial and stuff like that. So all you need to do to change a menu item in order is just drag and drop it. Simple as that. And then blog I think could be above about. We're going to click that as the header menu and the footer menu, and we're going to click on Save Menu. And that's it. We've created the first menu. We're going to need that menu to see how our header and footer displays, and it's really as simple as that. So the next thing that I'm going to do is, because I want the header to be the same as this, which is what we call transparent at the top, and to be able to see how that fits correctly, we're going to have to put in an image into our actual home page to display here. So quickly, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Pages, All Pages, and then I'm going to go to Edit with Elementor, and then I'm going to go Move Me over to the other side for now. So I can go to the settings panel here, and then I'm going to hide the title, make sure it is, and then I'm going to press update. Then I'm going to go to drag a widget here, but I'm just going to press the tick, the plus there, and then I want a single one, and I'm going to change that to full width on this left-hand panel for layout. And then I'm going to go to these 9 squares here. I'm going to pick an image, because what we're going to try and create is the same as the Colby here, with the logo in the middle and then the background. But initially, what we're going to do is just drop the logo in. So we're going to change that to full. We're going to choose an image, and then I've already uploaded a couple of images here, and one of those is the logo, and we're just going to insert that, and that means the logo's there, although you can't see it. So we're going to go back to the edit section area here, and we're going to go to style, and we're going to change this to an image. Now we could have a single image there, we could have a gradient, so it's different colors. We could put a video in the background embedded from, say, YouTube, or we can have a slideshow, and that's what we're going to do here. We're going to add a slideshow. So we're going to have click on here, and then we're going to click these 2 images for now. You can put as many in there as you want, in whatever order you want, and then you can just drag and drop them like that to go first, second, third, whatever it might be. And I'm going to have the wedding one first and insert the gallery. You'll see that it's not the full width that we're looking for. So height wise, so we're going to go back to layout. I'm going to go to height, and then we're going to click on fit to screen, and now you'll see that is the full height, ignoring the fact that at some point we're going to replace all of this top with a red text, and same as the footer at the bottom. But ultimately, we needed something just in place for now. Now, I find this logo is probably a little bit large, so we're going to edit the image. We're going to go to size, and we're going to go to custom, and we can put a custom width in there. And initially, I'm just going to try 400. And there we go. That's a lot better, much smaller, just more central, bit more like the Colby that we were looking for on that section. Let's press update. Now we've got that first in, and that is literally just a placeholder initially, just so that we can work out how the header is going to look at the top for our main menu, where our logo and our call to action and our navigation menu is going to sit on top of that image. So let's just refresh the page, and you'll see that we see those changes. Now, the next thing I want to do is set up some global colors and fonts and stuff. So on our panel on the left hand side, we've got these 3 lines. And let's just go to site settings. And that takes us to a sort of different builder, if that makes sense, a different element of the builder. A menu, we can change the global colors. So the primary color at the moment is blue. Maybe we could still use that blue. Maybe it would still work. Secondary, we could have it as some, any color that you wanted. For me, I'm going to have it as an almost black, but not quite. So 3838, something like that. I just add it. There we go. And then the text, we're going to have again as almost black. So slightly darker, say 2A, 2A. And then the accent color, we could have the same as the blue, for example. So let's just copy that color and let's just paste that in. And that will save all of those colors. So when we go through working with the website, we can use those brand colors dead easily. And we'll show you how that works in a little while. Then global fonts, the primary font, Roboto. We can change the weight and everything like that. So I want the size to be, say, 14. I want the weight to be, say, 400 or something like that, just a normal weight. And a letter spacing, let's have a 1 just to give it a bit more letter spacing. And we can go through all of these and do the same, that to suit your website. You can always go back in and change any of these at any time. Press update, go back, and then typography, you can change the color. So this is where I was saying, if you click on the global where we've saved those colors, we can now change that text color really, really easy. And we can add as many of these as we want. Say you wanted to add a red, and you thought, oh, I quite like that red, or that'll work, and you want to save it, you can just add there, change it to whatever name you want to call it, click on create, and you'll see that it will automatically add to the bottom. For this, we want it as text color. We want that to be Roboto, and we want that to be 14, weight is 400, letter spacing as 1 for now. And we can change all of the elements to go through as and when you need to. So again, link colors, typography, everything that all of those options can be changed at any point. You just go back to that setting on site settings and go from there. Buttons. So we've got this call now button up here, and we can set that so all of the buttons are global. So we'll click on it, and what we're going to use is more Roboto, but we're going to use condensed. Now all of these fonts, any element on the whole website, are Google fonts. So all you need to do is search for Google fonts. You can have a look how they all look, and they will load in the style anyway, as you can see as you go through. But for this, we're just going to use Roboto condensed for buttons. We're going to have that as 16. We're going to add a bit more weight to it as a 500, and we could have it so it's always uppercase, and let's have it as 1 letter spacing. Again, click off, and then let's have the text color as white, and let's have the background color as that blue accent color that we picked, that we're going to use as going through as our color scheme. And then we can add a border radius or whatever you want to do moving forward. Let's just press update, and it was more about just showing you some of these very quick global settings that you could go through and just change any of those to suit your website going through. We'll take a very quick break, and we'll look at how to create the first header and how to create the first footer for our website. So the next step that we need to do is actually create that header at the top, and then we'll create the footer. So what we're going to do is we're just going to press the X button now. And what we're going to do is go to these 3 lines here and click on Theme Builder. You'll see you've got lots of different elements available here, and we're just going to focus on header and footer for now. So let's start with the footer. Remember how I said through the Kobe website I quite like the footer, and that's what I wanted to look at replicating. So we're going to look at something and get it similar to what we've got there, using the details that we've got from James's website for the links, and the copyright we'll add in for James as well. So let's go back to the Elementor. When we click on the plus button on the footer, you'll see that it gives us a few examples that we can use as templates and move around, but we don't want to do that. We want to create something special, unique. So we're going to close that down. And down the bottom here, we're just going to click on the Add New Section. And we want this to be 2 different sections. By looking at the Kobe one, we can see we've got a section here as a column and a separate column there for the links. Then we have 2 rows. But at this point, all we're interested in is the actual columns. So we're going to go 2 columns. That's give us a 50-50. Obviously, we want something that's more along the 75-25 mark. So we're going to hover over this left-hand column, press on the little icon here, and make that column width 75%. You can see that's made that longer and that one a bit shorter. So that's pretty much what we need to do. Right, we're going to click on the 9 icons just up here, and we're going to drag in our menu, and we want it to look a little bit different to what we've got here. Yes, it looks okay because we set the global settings earlier, but we want it to be a darker color. So let's click on Style, and let's change that to complete black. And on the typography, I'm going to change that to Roboto Condensed, but I'm going to make it 500, so it's got a bit more of a weight to it. Let's have a look at 600, too much. Let's try the 500. The letter spacing as 1 works quite well as a whole. And then let's alter this horizontal padding, because those gaps in between there is just too much at the moment for what is needed. So let's just drag this across. I'm probably going to be looking around the 14 mark, I should imagine. See, that's much neater. We see as we go hover over, it changes colour, and we've got that icon below. The line. I don't want the line, so we go back to content and we change the underline to none. We'll change the align to left to make sure it stays on that left hand side. And then on style, we're going to go to hover, and when we hover over, we want to change that to probably a lighter black that we went to before. That's secondary, something like that. So it's just a subtle change when we hover over. And that looks quite neat. It's quite tidy. I think it works quite well. On active, we're going to have that as black all over. What you can do is have it as, say, red, so that when one of these pages is highlighted or somebody's on one of those pages, it will actually display in a different colour. But personally, it doesn't work for me. I like to keep everything nice and neat. The next part of that column that we want to drop in is obviously the copyright that we've got here. Don't want the terms and conditions of service link for now. So we're just going to copy the copyright. We're going to drop in just the text editor, and you can see you can put it above there, or you can drag it and drop it below, which is where we want it. Paste that in, change that to 2021 and call it Jigsaw Photography UK. All rights reserved. Then if we go back to style, and we can change this again to a darker black again, or we can have it slightly lighter so it's not so intrusive. It's slightly different, and I prefer something like that. And then the typography, let's change that to a smaller size, let's say a 12. And let's change the weight to 300, just so it's a little bit more subtle than the menu. And that's that section pretty much sorted of our footer. So how do we get the social links in? Well, we click back to our 9 dots, and we can use the search here to put in social. And we can see that it comes in social icons. Let's just drop it into there. And I don't like the colours or anything like that. Let's have a look what James has got. James has got Facebook and he's got Instagram. So let's right click on Facebook, copy that link address, go back to Elementor, and we'll change the style in Facebook, sorry, and then we'll paste in his link. We'll go to link options and make sure it's ticked on open in a new window. Go to the icon library. We see, although it's already on Facebook, let's see if there's another icon that we can use in all icons. And we'll just use just the F on its own. Insert. And then the same, we've only got 2, so let's delete the YouTube. And Twitter, icon library, let's change that to Instagram. Instagram, insert, and then go to page, right click, copy link address, and just put his link address in there. Obviously, you may have to type that in for your individual product. Then go to style, and let's change official color to custom. And this is where we can now go to the primary color, click on that box there, and this is our transparency slider, and we'll drag it all the way across, and we see it disappears for now. But on the secondary color, which is the actual icon itself, not the surrounding, we can change that to whatever color we wish. And this slider here changes the actual colors, and then this part here, the actual shades or tone of each color. But for me, we just wanted that little bit less than black, so we can use our custom global and put that as text, and that would drop it a bit lighter, or we could have it even darker probably by just going back in and dragging it to almost black but not quite. That'll do, something like that. Then we can change the size of these to massive, tiny, whatever size you feel suits your website. I'm going to probably have them around 20, a little bit smaller. And then you can have the padding so it's wider, larger, closer together. And we probably want them a little bit closer together, more like so. And there we go. That is pretty much our footer now in place, designed, very similar to how we've got it here. Slight changes, but works really, really nicely for the layout that we're looking for. So all we're going to do is press publish, add a condition, and that condition allows us to put it on just certain pages. We can exclude it from certain pages, or we can have it on the entire site. Now, for footers and headers, generally we will use the entire site. Press save and close, and that's it. That is the footer complete. If we go back to our home page and just refresh the page, you'll see that our footer now sits at the bottom of the page, and that will sit at the bottom of every single page that we build for our website moving forward. Now, if we go back to the three lines and go back to theme builder, we're going to click on header this time and click on the plus. And now we're going to make a header so it looks similar to Be Captured website here. Now, what we're going to do here is, again, ignore the examples, but there are plenty of templates in there that you could literally, I'm just going to click on that and insert it and use one of those and change it to suit your needs. But I'm going to show you how to build it from scratch. So let's close that down. Let's have a look at that. So we've got a logo, a navigation menu, and we've got a call to action button. I'm just going to move myself over to this right hand side a second. So what we need here then on Elementor, when we go on to add a new section, instead of the 2 that we had for the footer, we need 3. The logo is obviously smaller, so let's make that probably around 15%. Then the same as the call to action, we're probably going to have again at around 15%. You can do that by dragging, or we can do it the way that we did it before by clicking on the icon and just typing in the percentage of each section. Let's click on the plus here, and that's going to open up this section here. Let's drag an image into there where our logo is going to go. Let's put that as full. Let's choose the image, and again, we've already uploaded the logo, so we just click on it, insert it from the media library, then back to our 9 buttons, grab our navigation menu, and that drops our navigation menu in. We don't want the underline for now, so we turn that off. Let's bring all the align to the left. Let's look at the styles and everything like that with the horizontal padding that we had before. Let's have that at, say, 14. And then let's have a look at the typography again. And we're going to have that as Roboto condensed. We're going to increase that to 500 on weight. Then everything else can remain the same. Back to our 3 buttons, and then we're going to drop in the button element into here, and we're going to change the text to call now. And what we can do here is we can link that up, so when somebody clicks on it, it will automatically make the telephone call to James's telephone number. So let's copy his telephone number there, go back, and we write in tel double dot, and then paste in the telephone number, have it as open as a new window, although in most cases it will do that automatically. So that's pretty much it. That has created the header, but obviously the way we want it is it to be above that image. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back to our builder, and on the top here we'll press on the edit section, go to advanced, and we're going to change that index to, say, 5. So what a Z index does basically is the image will be at 0, then you can add layers, and it brings, the higher the number is of the Z index, i.e. 5, we always want that on top for us. But if you wanted something behind that, but still on top of the image, then you could have that as like 2. And the higher the number, the more forward upon the build that it is. So let's just publish that, add a condition, entire site again, and press save. Now, if we go back and refresh our page, we'll see that we've got a navigation bar at the top on the white space, and then our footer at the bottom. But obviously, how do we get it to sit on top? so the image is behind that. So this is where we need to go to Edit with Elementor and click on Edit with Elementor. But we're going to do that through the actual page, and this is why we had to put that placeholder image and the hero in to start with. Because it's going to make things so much easier for us to do that long term. Now, if you just want a white banner like we've got at the top here at the moment, and a black logo or coloured logo or whatever you want, then you don't need to input that image. You could just build your website from there and do the header and footer first. But I always think it looks really nice, professional, and a sleek finish to have it as a transparent background. So what we're going to do is we're going to edit the section of the image. Then we're going to go to Advanced. Then we're going to uncheck the link values. And we're going to just use the down button to create a minus. And as we bring that up as a minus, once we got the whole of it in, you'll see that the logo and the menu is still on top with a transparent background. Let's press Update. Now obviously now we've lost some of the text because it's black, the logo's white, which stands out on all of the images and stuff like that. So what we need to do then is we want to go back to the theme builder. Go back to our header and click on it. This time you will see it's been saved. Click on Edit. And then we're going to click on the menu. And then we're going to go to Style. And we're going to change the text color to white. Then on Hover, we're going to change it to a just off white, maybe like a EFEF. And then on Active, we'll have that as white too. So on Content, this time we might drop a bit of an underline on that top one, and you can change different animations or whatever you want it to do basically. We'll just have it on fade for now, and then go back to Style, and you can change the width to just a single point, 2 points, and the higher you go on that, the more depth it's going to give on that line underneath the links. Then on Hover, we can change that again to like an EFEF, something like that, if we can find it. Let's just type it in because we can do that. So we know that that colour and that colour are now the same. And let's say we want to change that button colour. That blue doesn't quite work when we look at it, for example. So let's just click on that and go to Style. And then we can just change the colour here. And let's say it's more of a purpley pink colour that we want to look at. Something, or a red. Red might work, like a pinky red, something like that. Then on Hover, we can do the same, and we can change that to like a pinky red, but a bit brighter, so that when we hover over it, it just changes colour a little bit for us. Probably drop that down a touch. Then we can add a hover animation whilst we're in Hover. And let's say we go for a grow rotate. So when we hover over, it now gives us that little bit of a cool little animation as well. To add a border, say you wanted to add a white border around it, you do that by just clicking on solid, double, various different areas, but we don't want to do that in this area. But say, for example, solid, then you can create the width that you want on each one, but we want that as none. And then border radius. And so we want to round the edges off, which you want to do here. Let's go for 50, but you could have it as, say, 6, which just turns the edges. 10 would do the edges a bit more. But we want it completely rounded like this, so let's have it as 50. Let's press Update. Now, let's just go to our web page, photography-studio.co.uk. Let's refresh everything, and you can see now what we've got is that we've got the underline on each page when we hover over in white, and we've got the call now button over there. I'm still not 100% convinced that this menu is quite big enough, so all we'd have to do is go back into edit, header again, open it up in a new window because that's the easiest way, and I'm just going to click on edit menu, go to style, typography, and I'm just going to change that this time to 18 and just make it a little bit larger. Then on active, because I don't want a pointer on active, I'm going to change that to 1. I'm going to change active, to a color, and then we're going to lower the opacity to 0 and press update. Then when we go back to our page and we refresh again, you'll see that the menu items are now larger. We've got our call to action button, our logos displayed, we have the hero. So we have a blend of the two websites coming together as we first land on the website. So very simple, really easy to do. That's the first section. We'll take a little break and then we'll come back and start putting some more of the page design together. So now we've sort of like built that initial sort of landing area, I suppose, is going to be the first thing that your clients see. It's a lovely big colourful picture. It's got the logo telling them who you are, and then it's got the links at the top for them to be able to get through. Next thing we need to do is build up below this header and obviously above this footer the content that we want to be implementing onto the main page. So looking at the examples that we've looked at for inspiration in Be Captured, and go back to the top, we've got this big hero, similar to ours, look, text area and the portfolio, and then below that, as I said, just sort of falls off and it wasn't so much of interest. But then when we look at Kobe, we look at the big hero area, the same, then some logos of some of the customers that they've got, but obviously that doesn't really relate to the website that we're building because a lot of them are private customers, not commercial. And then we've got these really big service blocks that I really like the look of. Then it falls off again design wise in this area. Some testimonials works and falls off. So what we want to do is take a bit from both of these two websites and just put them together into ours to design elements that we know really work nicely. So looking back to James's website, we have got some logos here, and what I'm going to do is implement some of those logos. I've saved them already and drop them into the initial design underneath here. And do that back on the home page, click with Edit with Elementor. That's going to load up the Elementor builder, move me over a little bit to there so we can see all of here. And then underneath here, just by scrolling down, you'll see we've got this plus section. Add a new section, a complete section, and then you'll see we've got edit section comes up on this left hand side. Now I want the height to be at minimal. You see by default it goes to 400. What I'm going to do, I'm going to change that probably to about 175, and that gives us quite a good depth on the page, similar to what we've got on Colby here, because we know that design layout works nicely. Then on vertical align, we're going to change default to middle, and then we're going to go on the 9 boxes at the top right hand corner, and what we're going to search for is some kind of slider, because we want image slider. So we could go for, let's just type in slider for now, And we see we've got a couple of options, and we're going to use the image carousel and just drag and drop that into that section. And you'll see all of the information here on this left-hand side is blank at present or at default and no images. So we're going to click on the plus and we're just going to select the images that we want. I've already uploaded them. You would go to upload files, select the files that you want to upload, and then upload them as simply as that. We're going to just create the new gallery. And then what we're going to do is we're going to use the drag and drop and put them into some kind of better order. So we want the excellent, let's put the wedding, let's put certified, then put these as gold, silver, bronze, and then highly commended. So they're in structural order of result. Insert that gallery. We'll see that it comes up as a bit of a slider with dots and whatever underneath. Now the size doesn't work. It's cropping those into a square, 150 by 150. So we're going to make it, let's have a look at medium large, way too big. Let's have a look at full. Again, remains way too big. So we're going to go for a custom, and we're going to change the height to probably around 100 to start with. Press OK. And that just makes things a little bit neater. Fits nicely. This one's a little bit small, but we could find a better logo. You could make them logos or whatever you want to put in there. You can make them in Photoshop or get somebody to make them for you at the right sizes. But I think that's quite a bit neater. Slides to show. We could show 4. We could show just the 2 across. Or if we go back to Kobe, you can see that they're showing 6. And it's still on a slider. So if we go for 6, what have we got there? You can see it works quite nice. But as we can see, we're not at a full width like we've got on the Kobe ink one. So what we're going to do there is we're going to click back to the edit section. And we're going to make the content width here full width. And we'll see now it spreads across the whole of that page. It adds in more images as we go because it's trying to fill all of that space, but it will work quite nicely. Now what we could do is say we wanted them like Kobe just to be black. We could go on style here and we could have a look at a few different options to see if we could get whether or not it allows to have a CSS element. It doesn't by the look of it. What about in advanced? No, we could put some custom CSS in there, but we don't want to be, we were trying to keep this as simple as possible for anybody to be able to work with. So that's pretty much it, I guess, for that slider section. If we go back to a boxed version and we make it a little bit wider, so it's something along that may work better for our needs. So I'm just going to round that down to 50 just so it's a nice round number, and I think that would work better for us than having it full width actually. So I quite like that. We've got our awards and everything in there. Works really, really nicely. Everything's aligned perfectly. Let's click on the gallery here again. Slides to show. Let's change that to 5. So there's a bit more of a space around. I think that works nicely. And then for navigation, I'm going to have as 0, nothing there. But you can have from navigation here, arrows and dots, where you can see here we've got the arrows and the dots. You can have just arrows, and you can have just dots. But I quite like that it's nothing. That will just automatically slide with no navigation there, and it just looks nice and neat. So let's press update. Have a look at previewing those changes. And as we go down, we can see it's put in the slider for us. Let's just refresh again, and you can see that will sort the CSS. We just need to clear cache with Control and R or Control and F5 just to give it the design. And we can see that section there fits nicely, similarly to this one, but with our own little twist by making it a bit narrower. Now we want to work on implementing these 3 boxes. So we go back to Elementor, and again, we're going to click on a column, and initially we're going to have it as 3 by 3. And we're going to need to find something that works. So we click on our Elementor widgets again. And let's have a look at what we've got regarding flip boxes. A nice flip box there that you won't get, but you can do with the plugins that I spoke about earlier on in the course. But let's just try the simple flip box that we've got. Okay, that doesn't quite work for me. I want something a bit more just standard, if that makes sense, with a title and just a picture. So let's right click on that element and press delete, and that will delete any element that you've put in there. So I'm going to find heading, and I'm just going to drop the header into there. I'm going to centralize it. I'm going to call this one Family Portraits. Family Portraits. We've got that as a H2. You can change the HTML tag to H1, H2 when you're thinking about your SEO and stuff like that. So if we go to style, we're going to go to typography, and we're going to go for the robot condensed again, but we're going to make this quite a bit larger. Let's go for 24, and let's make it bold for 600, something like that. Then what we want to do is implement the background image that we're going to use for this. So on this one, we're going to click on edit the column section here. Then we're going to go to style. Then we're going to go to background. And what we're going to do is click on classic. Then we're going to choose an image to use as our background. And for now, because we've got this one uploaded, let's go on to James' website and have a look what they've got in the family option. Let's click on family. Let's click on this one here. That one works quite well. Let's save and just save that one there. And then we can just drag and drop it into there as well, or we can go for the conventional method of upload files, but drag and drop works quite nicely. Let's insert that media. And that now is going to provide us the background that we're going to need for that column to show Sam Colby, where it's got fashion, beauty, advertising with these background images. We're going for that same sort of style. We're going to position it as center, and you could see that at the moment it obviously is blocking the text and everything like that. It's very small. So what we need to do next is we're going to go for layout, vertical align, middle, and then we're going to go to advanced. And what we're going to do is unclick the link values, and we're going to give that about 100 at the top, and let's say 100 at the bottom for now. Not quite big enough. Let's double it and go for 200 and 200, and that makes these really big areas for us to work with, probably around the right size boxes that we want to actually be working with. I'm going to put a bit of a margin on either side of 30 on the right and 30 on the left, possibly on that for now. And I'll show you why we're going to do that moving forward in a little while. But we need to go back to the heading. So we go, click on the heading, and what we want to be doing is advanced, and then we're going to make the background, and we're going to fill the background of the header white for now. Go back to advanced, and let's put a margin on all of these of 60 on the left, 60 on the right, and you'll see that is now giving us that box around that center. Does anything happen if we add some padding, say 20? It does, but it pushes everything about a little bit. So let's go for like a 10 padding, and it just gives us a bit more of that block, similarly to what we've got here, I guess. I believe that the picture's just too big, so we're just going to click on Edit Column again, and then go to Layout, Style, Background. And what we're going to do is on size, we're going to have that as cover. So that's going to just bring things, contain as well. Well, doesn't work. Auto gives us that full view, cover, or custom. So on custom, we could have it as 100% width, or we can then have it in all different sort of, you could have it, say you could have several grids of it like so, or something like that. So let's have it on cover, because we want it to cover the whole of that block, essentially. So what I want to do is make these full width border before we proceed to continue working. We've got the initial block in. We now need to sort of work out, right, is that the layout that's going to work? And I think the layout will work really nicely, but I want it to be more of a full width. So we're going to click on the Edit section again. And then we're going to drag to probably 1600, or what would be full width. Now, full width works really nicely for us there, I believe. So what we can do back on Edit Column now is we can put a background overlay as well. And then we can go on Classic, and then we can pick a color such as Secondary. And it's just going to give us that sort of little bit of, just dulled out a little bit for us so that it will separate these boxes better. We can lower the opacity a touch to say 0.25 probably will work nicely, just so we've got a bit of a sort of a bit of a play, I guess. Then background, we can go into hover, and you can change the picture. So when it hovers over, we could say, let's just pick this color picture for now. When we hover over, it will change the image or something like that you wanted. And that will do for now in that sort of section. I believe now what we've got is the starting block for our free Colby service blocks. I'm not 100% keen on what we've got so far. I think that the margin at the left hand side in particular is probably too much for now. But what we need to do is get all 3 blocks in place. First of all, I want to edit this title because we don't want it that blue. We're going to change it to the secondary black that we saved earlier and try the text. Now we'll go for the secondary. I think that works. On the advanced there, I'm going to just unlink them, and I'm going to lower the right hand side one to just 0 and the left hand one to 0, and it just pushes it in a little bit so the block's not so together. And then I'm going to change these to 90 and then 90, and it's just pushed that side in so it's a bit more subtle into the middle to work. And then on the background, I'm going to go back, and on the color I'm going to drag that down so it's not 100%, but it's got a little bit of the cut off there. I just think that works a little bit better overall. When we go to the hover over, we've still got our image. I don't want that. I don't need it. It's not what's going to work for me. I'm going to go to edit column. I'll just show you an example how you could do it. And I'm just going to unclick there, the classic. And you'll see that it's just sits there nicely, just for how I want it to work at this instance. So if we now right click on that column and duplicate it, right click on that column and duplicate it again, you'll see we've ended up with 5 columns, but we only want 3. So on the 2 empty ones, let's delete and delete, and we've now got our 3 columns. But what we've learned is that actually they're probably spaced out a little bit too much than what we need. So what we're going to do is click on edit column again, go to advanced, and now we can work out that the margins on the right and the left are bigger than what we need them to be. So we're going to change them to 10. Same with all 3 boxes. And because there's 10 on each one, there'll be a 10 pixel gap at the 2 ends, but these 2 will be 20, and they're fitting really, really nicely. And I believe that that looks a lot neater. But obviously on these ones are going to be weddings and commercial. So we're going to do wedding photography, and then we're going to change that one to commercial photography. And then what we need to do is go out back to James's website, and let's click on his portfolio for weddings, and let's choose a nice picture. That's a nice one. Save that one, and then we're going to go back to his portfolio for commercial photography and see if we've got any black and white ones anywhere, or product photography. His product photography one looks quite nice here with the rings. Let's save that one, and then go back to Elementor, and then we're going to edit this column here. Go to style, and we've got our background all in place. Choose image. Let's upload the 2 images that we've just saved from his website. And then we're going to click on the wedding one, insert that media, and then we're going to do the same. Style, choose images, and input that bit of product commercial photography. What we do have is another option here, another image. I really like this image, and I think it works really, really nicely. Unfortunately, obviously, a title cuts through it. Now, what we can do is we can have a look at the positioning as center and center. We can look at bottom center, and it doesn't really move. But if we get a custom, you'll see that we've got a Y and an X axis. So on X, we can move left and right. And then on Y, we can move up and down. Unfortunately, it's still very central whatever we do. So we're going to go back to center, choose the image, and we're going to go back to the original image that we had where nobody's face gets cut off. So again, let's update. Control F5 to clear any cache. And we've got our slider, and we've got our free element blocks for services. And it's starting to come together. We know what these do now. So what we need to do is link all of this up. So if we click on the edit column, go to layout, and we make sure that everything's middle, everything's in place. Let's click on the title, go to content at this top one, and then what we can do, we can put that as a link to a family portraits page. Obviously, we haven't yet created it, but we'd have to go back to do that. But we can initially just add a blank link in to each of these with a hashtag, the same way as how we did the menu earlier on. Press update. And then when we go down, when we hover over, we can see that it changes to a link cursor. So I think that's starting to really look the part, really. I think it's starting to come together. Yeah, there's lots of little things we could do to get these slants in. But for this initial thing, it's about just starting a business website for your small business that looks really, really nicely in the most simple and professional way, without going into lots of coding and design elements that we don't need to be messing about with at this stage. Those are things that will come and you can learn moving forward. So what I'm going to do, let's have a really small break, grab a cup of coffee, and then I'll jump back on and we'll start looking at the captured sections that we want to implement into our website with the text and maybe a little bit of a portfolio scroll, and finish off this homepage, how we want the homepage to lay out completely. Catch me over there in a couple of seconds and we'll be back on it. Okay, so there we are. We're almost there. We've finished the homepage. Let's show you very quickly in this section how we would lay out an inner page. And the best way to do that really is going to be to look at changing some of the homepage to suit an inner page. And that was where the importance of, when we were talking about the essential plugins earlier, the duplicate post one. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to duplicate post and we're going to copy that to a new draft. And what we're going to do is call that one weddings. So let's create a page for weddings. We're just going to click on publish that. And then we're going to go to edit with Elementor, and that's going to open up our Elementor builder, exactly the same layer as what we had for the home page. Now, as we know, that internal pages don't really sit exactly the same as the home page. We want a bit more text space, we want a little bit more information, and we don't want this massive full banner to start with. So the first thing that we're going to change to that, let's just double check, make sure that everything has come across. Yeah, it has, as we expected it to do so. So as I said, the first one we're going to do is reduce the size of this header. So we're going to right click, edit section. We're going to change fit to screen to a minimum height, and we're just going to have it around the 400 mark. And I think that works quite nicely, but I think it would work quite nicely if we had a little bit of a shape at the bottom here to separate it. Now, what we don't want is the scroller. We want just a single image. So we're going to change this to classic, and we're going to choose the image that we want, which is going to be that wedding one. We're going to insert the media, and then we're going to change the position to center. And then we're going to change the size to cover. So it covers the whole of that. Now, because we're losing this very top section, home and the menu, what I want to do now is probably change the position to custom. And using the Y axis, just going to drag it up so that we've got something around there. Now we're still losing this section. We can sort that out quite easily if I move myself out of the way a second to there. We're going to add a background overlay. We're going to change that to a gradient, and what we're going to do is have that as black for now, and then the main color as black as well. On this one, we're just going to make that transparent so it's 0. On the opacity, we're just going to lower it until we've got a level whereby if it's at 0 we can't see, but if we draw it up to around 0.3, we'll see that we can quite nicely see those links at the top for our header now. Want to change it, like I said, clicking on it, and we're going to go shape divider, and on the bottom let's try mountains, and we can have a real nice, just beautiful little shape to the bottom of it, and we can play with the height so it's not so high or low, and we can change the width to wider, high, lower, whatever suits and works for you. Now there's loads of different options you can pick here to suit your needs. Mountains, I feel, works quite nicely. We can flip it so that it changes the direction of it. I think we'll leave it unflipped, and we'll leave it like so for now, and maybe we might just increase the height to about 85. I think that adds a nice little header to the inner page that we're going to be working on when we move forward. We don't want the jigsaw photography logo in on this page, so what we're going to do is click on it, right click, and just delete, and that gives us just this center box in the moment. And if we click on the column, we can then go back to the element, drop in a header, we'll centralize it, we'll have it as the H1 header, and we're going to put wedding photography in there. As the style, we're going to have that as white, text-wise. And the typography style, we're going to have as condensed. We're going to have it bold. And then we're going to really pump this up to probably around a 40. And that will sit quite nicely. You could have it even as 60. Yeah, I think 60 works quite nicely. Now you can transform these to upper case. You could have an italic feel to it. You can have an underline, an overline, you can have a line through, or you can have none. The default is none as well. And I think that works fairly nicely as well, whereby we've got wedding photography in bold, sitting through the center, quite large, so then people know when they go onto this page, this is your wedding photography page. We're going to edit that section, and I just want to make it a little bit bigger. Because we've added this at the bottom, we've probably lost 20-30 pixels in certain areas. So if we just add that extra 30 back in, and it just gives us a bit more of a bigger header again. Now we want to keep these elements, but we don't want them at the top of the page. So for this instance, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to hover over there, press down, holding down the key, and let's just drag it to where we've got these testimonials at the moment. So then they're going to be at the bottom of the page, and we're going to drag the testimonials above, and we would change these ideally into sliders or testimonials to do with his wedding services that we've provided, or something along those lines. So what we want to be looking at in this section now is we don't need these free service blocks. Let's delete that whole section, and that brings that section up. And all we really need to be focusing on here now is the text, all about the packages to do with weddings. If we go on to the weddings and the information, check the availability, and a bit of a portfolio. And we can put all of the information and blocks that we want for the different packages or something along those lines. So first thing I want to do is I'm going to drag that across to there, and we've swapped those columns over now. I'm going to delete the image because I don't want the image to be, don't need it there for now. And then what we're going to do is we're going to change this section to award-winning wedding photography in Birmingham, UK. And we'll change this to wedding photography services. For example, you can put in whatever you want to pop in there. James has a different logo for his wedding photography, but we're not going to worry about that for now. What I am going to do is I quite like this, capturing your magical day, basically. So let's put in there, capturing your magical day. In there, in the text section, we're going to copy James's text here. And we've got all the information that he's got about his wedding photography and what's available that you may need. And then in this section, which I'm going to actually just add by editing column and then to the style, I'm just going to add that background color again as F9, F9, F9 that we know works quite well, just to give it that little bit of a different color. And what we're going to do here is implement this check error availability section with let's duplicate this award-winning one here, move that across to there, and we're going to just put check error availability. We're going to centralize it, and what I want to do in the style, the typography, is I'm just going to probably make that uppercase as well. On the content, I'm going to make it a H3. And then I want to add in a form. So we go to the elements, let's find a form. And we've got several different options available, but the one that we want is this Elementor form here. Let's drop it below there. And there's lots of different things. Let's remove those labels to start with, and we'll see that that drops that in nicely into there. And then what we would do is put a name, an email address, a telephone number. Let's add an item into the form, making sure we're selected on the form, add item, and then the type as number, and we'll put that as telephone, and then telephone as well. Then if we drag that above message, then we want to add in date of potential booking. We can add an item again, a text area, or we can actually pick date of potential booking, date of potential booking. Make sure that is required, because that is going to be a required element. And we're going to drop that in above. Now what we can do is we can change any of these as width. So we could change that to 50, and then the telephone number we could change to say 50 as well. And we can see how that changed elements. Now all you need to be doing in this section overall is working all of these elements. So if you're a wedding photographer, then obviously the same as, you know, the form content that you need is going to be different to what you're going to be needing if you're a plumber or an electrician or you sell a product or something like that. But ultimately it's about ensuring that you get this form built up correctly to suit your needs, basically. So that's it essentially at the moment. What I am going to do here is I'm going to save James's logo. Because I want to fill a bit of this space, I'm going to add that as an image below. And then I'm going to choose that image, just drag that in there, just so it's nice in there. And that all really has done is just filled that space for us so that it wasn't so central, because we've got so much text on this left-hand side. Let's finish off the form now. Let's edit the form again. And we're going to go to the style of it. Now we can change the gaps of all of these to say 15. So there's more gap in between the two that are on columns, and then those that are rows, we can change those to 15 and give a bit of a gap in between each one of those. We might actually change that to 20 just because we want to fill as much of that grey box as we possibly can. Label colours and field colours, they're all things that you can play with, and as well as the colour for the button. So let's change that to the red, because that's ideally the colour we want is the same as the one we've got on this button. Now, if you haven't saved a colour, what you could do is let's quickly update that, and we know that that colour's the colour that we want. At the top here, we can right click on edit, click on edit header. We could click on that button, go to style, and we can click on that image and save that as button red quickly. Then on hover, we can save that as button pink, and we know that the border radius is 50, so we can match everything up. Now if we right click and then hover over edit page, we can edit page. Let's click on save, and then that will take us to editing the page again. Click back onto the form, and then on button we can change the colour to button red. We can change the radius to 50, and hover we can change the background colour to button pink. So when we hover over, everything sits the same. On typography, we're going to give that a space of 2, and we're going to have it as Roboto condensed. We're going to add a weight of 600, and we're probably going to make the size something along there. And on content, what I'm going to change the button here, where it says submit button, where it says send, get a quote. And that gives us that little bit of a quote button. People can go on there and go and get us a quote. And we can change this where it skews, grows and rotates. So we can go back to style, we can go back to button, we can go back to hover, And then on the animation, we can have rotate, grow, and then it remains consistent to what we've got above. On this column, I'm going to edit that column, and I'm just going to add a bit of a padding on the left and the right, and I'm just going to put it as 10 on the left and 10 on the right initially, and that works quite well. Might actually just increase that to 15 on both, just to give it a little bit more oomph. And there we go. We've got some text element, we've got the form that works quite nicely. Now, how do we set up the form to go to the email? So we click on the form again. On the content, we've got a bit where actions after submit. Now, you can collect the submissions, you can send it as an email, which is the most popular. And then we have all these options where we can send them to MailChimp. So you could set a form like this for a newsletter or something like that, or any of the other options that you use, similar to MailChimp, such as Active Campaign, Get Response, ConvertKit, any of those sort of sales items that we want. We just want it as email ourselves. Then we pick the email address to send it to. We'll leave that the same for now. Then we'll have, right, we've got a new message from, your website or whatever you want. You want to remain all fields to be like that. The from email would be the admin email address that you use to set up your website. So it could be info@Photography Studio, for example, the name you want it to be from your website, reply to, and all that information you can fill in really simply to get you sorted. Step settings, don't need to worry about any of those in this style of form, and that's all we're going to have to worry about at this stage. So generally, that's a form that's going to send an email and somebody pops up their information and everything's going to work really nicely. I'll show you an example of that. Let's press update. And then if we press the preview changes icon down the bottom here, we're going to Command F5 and clear the cache. And here we go now, the page that we've got for our wedding page. A wedding photography, information, check availability form. And if we fill in this form here, Scott Latham Photography, click on a potential date that we want to use. Say our wedding is going to be in May the 14th, 2022. Email address, telephone number, and then a message. Please quote test blah blah. Click on get quote. That will send an email, sent, and then you will receive an email from that client. Really, really easy, really, really simple, works really, really nice. Now let's go back to editing some of this page. Now we've got some of this information that we know works really nicely. The portfolio, so you would change these photos to suit wedding photos, obviously, some testimonials, and then we've got your credentials at the bottom. One thing that I think that would be really important at this stage for a wedding photographer, or for example, if you've got various different price lists or whatever, something like that, then what we could do is add a price list area. Now, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to drag this portfolio item into this section here for now. Then I'm going to drag that. I'm going to leave it where it is actually. So what I'm going to actually do is go to the Elementor, and I'm going to look at price list, pricing table, or price list. Let's have a look at price list. No, that's more for a restaurant or a cafe or something like that. Doesn't work for this element. So we're just going to delete that one, and we're going to go to price table. And there we go, we've got a nice price table there. Let's call this package silver. Let's have a look what we've got here. Album collection, presentation collection, or digital image collection. So let's go for the digital image collection package. Let's call it digital image collection. You put a little bit of information somewhere along that you want to fill in if you wanted to, or you can just remove that, which is what we're going to do. The pricing for that will change to whatever your currency is, so pound sterling for us. Let's say it's $399.99. Let's have a look at the features. So each of these features that are available on James's all digital thingy, so all digital images, and we can click on list. We can change the text here, go back, bridal prep to first dance, list item 2, list item 3 is going to be a secure online gallery for viewing, sharing and purchasing. For now, then we want to add an item. No obligation meeting to discuss your requirements. Add an item. Includes engagement photo shoot. Add an item. Fully insured, including public liability. There we go. We've got all of the information that is designed basically to do with whatever your package, if you're doing a pricing structure overall. In the footer area, we could put some kind of disclaimer, spread the cost or pay in one lump sum. So we're just going to drop that into there. And then we're going to change that to book now. Then we can change that ribbon to most popular, or just you could change it to on sale, or whatever you wanted it to say. We'll just leave it as popular for now. So let's have a look at the colour that we can choose in styles. So background colour, we're going to change that to the button red. The title colour, we're going to change that to text. To probably white. And then the typography of that, we're going to change that to Roboto condensed. We're going to whoop that to 19, and we're going to have it a little bit bolder on 600. Pricing, this is where you can actually change that to say button pink, and you could have something like that going on, or you can leave it just as a blank icon, and I prefer the blank personally. Let's change the color. Now you could change that color to the red, for example. The typography of that, you could have increase the size of it to say, I don't know, 40 is probably going to work well, something like that, or let's go a bit more, have it 60. Currency symbol, you could have it full size, or you can have it just sort of at the top. Most people are going to know whatever country that you're working in is going to be that sort of color, that currency, sorry. Features, so you could have those as text, you can have a divider or no divider, and I think no divider would work well for this. We can have them aligned left, center or right. We're going to leave that center for now. And we can change the color of the text, or you can change the background color to whatever you wanted that to be. Personally, I think it's just going to look best as it is. In the footer area, on the button, we're obviously we're going to change that to suit our other buttons, so red. And then on hover, we're going to change the color to the pink. And then on animation, we're going to keep it all so it's grow, rotate, the same. Let's go back to normal. And on the border radius, we know that we've got 50 for the rest of the website, so we'll keep that working as it should be. Additional information, we probably want to make that a little bit smaller, so let's make it a 10 for now, and we could do whatever information, whatever you feel. On the colour for the ribbon, we're going to do that as the button pink, just so it separates the colour a touch. And I think generally style-wise, that would work okay. But obviously we don't want one big item like so. So what we're going to do is right-click on Edit Column and duplicate that. Then right-click Edit Column and duplicate that. And now we've got 3 different options to work with overall for your different services that you provide, or whatever packages that you do provide. Say most wedding photography or most wedding packages are free, really. Let's click on that edit and go back to style for this price thing, and let's see if in advanced we can get a border. And what we're going to do is put a solid border and make that just 1. Then on the color, we're going to make it that button red around, and then on the border radius, just drop it as a 20 for now. So what we've got now is just added a bit of a border around it, something like that. Because we've created the 3 columns, we can see that the text has changed slightly and a few different design element changed. So we knew that we needed to add something in there, and that border's separated that nicely for that. So on style, again, on the features, which is pin drops, let's see what it looks when we go to the left. Maybe we could add some padding on that left to say 40, bring it more centrally. On typography, on the line height, let's just drag that so we've got a bit more of a gap between each line. Probably increase that to 15 even. And I think that works quite nicely. Could add the divider back in and separate things, and we could have that. Let's just delete that. Sorry, on the divider, and we could change the color of that to say that F9, F9, F9. It's not quite deep enough. Let's just darken it down a touch. Let's put the weight of it as 1. I think that works really, really nicely. Starting to work nicely, at least. On the footer, what I want to do on the typography area, on the additional information, just want to decrease that a little bit smaller, just so it's all on one line. You probably drop less information potentially. Let's have a look what we've got. If we go back to content at the top, go to the footer area, spread the cost of paying 1 lump sum. It's duplicating it, and that's why it seems longer. Let's go back to the style, footer, and again, additional information. Now we could increase that to 10, and letting people know that there's a finance available on that. So again, now we've got that design in place, we just go to duplicate and duplicate, delete these 2, And we've got 3 nice pricing packages available. What we would probably do is on the 2 end ones, on content, on ribbon, we probably wouldn't show because we only want the one that want to most sell to have the ribbon. And then obviously we just change the information to suit each individual one as we go forward. Regarding content, we would just link it to the book now. If you've got a booking form or just wanting to send an email or whatever information you want, people to link or page or whatever way you want people to do, you could have just mail to, and then you could have wedding at photography studio.co.uk or whatever your email address is. And once that's going to do, once they click on book now, that will open up the mail client and they'll be able to send you an email. As simple as that. So let's have a look at that, how that looks overall. On our wedding, refresh. So we've got a header, our information, pricing, and then a bit of a portfolio item, and then awards or whatever at the bottom. Now, what I don't want is this portfolio item or this to really be scrolling all this, because we've got 3 different elements in a row that are all pretty much doing the same sort of job. So what I'm going to do in this instance is I'm going to remove the image carousel for now. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new section, a single section, and I'm going to drag that in between the 2 items. Then I'm going to edit advanced, and again I'm going to have those as 60 for now, and go to the Elementors. And what we're going to do is put a gallery in there and just have a basic static gallery in there. A type, multiple, order, change the layout to grid. Masonry always looks quite nice. Let's have 4 columns, bit of a spacing around, and then the link to the media file, custom URL, whatever you might be. Let's have that as large for the image size, and then the overlay, you could have whatever you really wanted. But for now, we're going to turn that off. Let's add the images that we're going to add. You would obviously upload wedding photos to this. For now, we're just going to add what photos we've already uploaded, insert the gallery. And then we see masonry, different images, and you just drag in a bit of your portfolio that will work really, really nicely to suit your needs. Order, you could have as default, or you can have it as random. So every time that it loads, it'll go in a different order, or default will be you can drag and drop whichever ones suit for your business. So we change that one to there for now, for example. You'll see that we can just get things to fit quite nicely into that area. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to remove that one for now, and then what we'll get is a real nice fitting across the edge. Yeah, we've got a bit of a gap, but that's nothing too major for now. So we've still got our testimonials giving us brand authority. We've got a portfolio of what we do. We've got rewards or something like that. And then we've got our footer, press update, and we should have Control and F to clear the cache. We'll see very, very quickly we've took a home page, the elements that we've already created that we know worked and suit within our website style and to follow things through. We've now added an internal page. Now all we need to do for each of our internal pages to keep everything structured the same is again duplicate post, copy to new address, to a new draft. And all we need to do with these elements is change that background image, change that text, change this text, change that form if you know, depending on, I mean, a lot of businesses that we do build for that aren't photography based, you know, they'll just have a set contact form that works in there for whatever reason it might be for the business, and that will never have to change. You never have to change any of that information. We've got a pricing structure because we're a photography business, but some businesses have different service offerings anyway. We've got reviews, a portfolio of work, and then awards to back up the portfolio and reviews. Really, really simple. That is how to build a small business website. You've just got to keep copying and copying and copying those pages with a duplicate, get all of your information in there, and then you'll be able to jump across and start having a look at the course that we're putting together at the moment called How to Rank on Google, and then implement some of these search engine optimization strategies that we're going to be teaching over there. Really hope this was helpful. I've tried to keep it as simple and as quick as possible. Please do not hesitate to ask any questions whatsoever. You can find me on scottlavendigital.com via email or on Facebook, YouTube, drop a comment below or anything like that. And what I will try and do, some of these comments or questions that I get asked, I'll try and do a short video showing on how to do different elements. Don't forget to check out the resources and conclusion. Don't forget to check out the next lesson, which is going to be all about how to launch this website once you've finished it.